I'm Lyndsey Smith with Real Agriculture and Real Ag Radio, and joining me now is Jason Smith, no relation, well, maybe way back. He's the Portfolio Marketing Manager, Herbicides, Western Canada for Corteva. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lyndsey. Happy to be here.
All right. We are going to talk about herbicides because that's your jam. But we're going to talk about herbicides in a bit of a different way than perhaps most people think about them. We're going to think about this year, next year, the year after. Why?
Absolutely. Well, because as I was telling you in our preamble, that's kind of the somewhat bipolar notion of Jason's existence, where I live in 2025, but then start to think of 26 and 27 and 28 and beyond, looking at new herbicide concepts, new molecules, new ideas, right? So that's really where I live and spend a lot of my time.
Now, the exciting part of, say, new molecules is one that would get us very excited. But that one I don't think comes across nearly as often as perhaps the first part of that, which is the new concepts, maybe new formulations, maybe new ways of using new products. So what are some of the things you're looking at there for this year, next year, years beyond, as far as, maybe some concepts?
So I would say all of the above, right? The new molecules are certainly further out because the time necessary to discover and characterize and register is significant, and the investment to do that is pretty lengthy. But yes, we do spend a lot of time playing with different combinations to look at pieces. So formulation is becoming more and more apparent, or more and more important. Sorry, we very much. I try to very much balance this idea of, hey, we want to have something that performs very well for a customer from a broad spectrum, dealing with problem weeds, but it's also got to be convenient to use because, let's be honest, if you have the best herbicide in the world, but it comes in 4 different jugs and a massive case treats 20 acres, uptake on that one's probably not going to be really high. Customers don't really like that, right? So a lot of the stuff that we're looking at this year would be some formulation tweaks and improvements. And then the other piece would be, again, playing with some combinations to see if there's some ability to start to address some significant weed concerns for customers in Western Canada. And I would say the number one on my hit list continues to be Kochia. Mm-hmm. Kochia is a growing concern and certainly something that consumes a lot of my time and energy and thought process.
I think that's because it consumes a lot of time and energy from the farmer's perspective. Yes. What is it about, from a herbicide perspective, what is it about Kochia that makes it so difficult?
Well, I think what makes it so difficult is just its ability to adapt to herbicides, right? Like it's shown a remarkable resilience to be able to grow through herbicides. Back in the Stone Ages, the turn of the century, when I was in the field, all we had to deal with was Group 2 resistant Kochia, but in the 20 or so years since, it's developed a remarkable level of resistance to a number of herbicides. And certainly one of the things that we tend to do is go back to the well again and again, where, hey, if we have something that works quite well, we like to use it until we absolutely beat that horse dead and then look for some other solutions. So certainly conversations I'm having with customers is, hey, be cognizant of the fact that the herbicide tools you have, you want to do everything you can to maximize those and ensure that you maintain those, because long term, there's probably not some magical mode of action, or certainly not a magical mode of action on the horizon that's going to come and save you.
Mm-hmm. So that brings us sort of full circle to the first part of our conversation, thinking about, formulations or different tactics, but also the molecule side. Obviously, companies like Corteva are spending a lot of time and effort looking at new products, new molecules, new things to bring. But how rare is it to find something that is really new and remarkable that, plays a role in solving some of these issues?
Well, I think all we'd have to do is take a look at what are people bringing out that's new and novel from a mode of action or even from a new molecule standpoint, and see that, those sorts of discoveries are trickling out every few years versus several per year. right? So,
Yeah.
they are trickier to discover. They are trickier to characterize. They're much more expensive to develop. And, there has to be that ability to recoup that investment. So, I know the number that we've liked to talk about is somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million a day that Corteva invests into agricultural research across the vast array of what we do, which is a pretty significant amount of money. And certainly when I spend time with colleagues down in Indianapolis, where we have a lot of our R&D for herbicides, I get to see firsthand all of the work, all of the brain power, all of the passion that's going into doing that sort of work down there.
Mm-hmm. But it is as you mentioned, it's a heavy lift. That's for darn sure. Like there's a lot of work that goes into these products and finding new molecules or new ways to use them, which is super cool. Now, okay, so we are on the cusp of a growing season. Herbicides, of course, a big one. If you had one piece of advice for farmers this spring when it comes to herbicide management, you only get one. What are you going to tell them?
Don't skip burn off.
Oh, I like it. Solid. Yeah. You didn't even hesitate, Jason.
Nope.
Don't skip it. Why?
Don't skip burn off. Because very few times I've ever seen anybody regret that. Regret doing the burn off.
Yep.
I would say there's a lot of times where they've regretted not doing the burn off, right? There's probably more weeds out in that field than you think. We don't see a lot of those small microannuals. I think we talk about them. And certainly if we've got some overwintered winter annual or early perennial type weeds, a burn off is absolutely critical. That helps get your crop off to the best start, ensures that it gets ahead of the weeds, and then typically that gives us a more efficacious in-crop treatment when we have a crop that is ready to compete with weeds that are at or below its leaf stage. And, the herbicide gives them a helping hand. One of the best tools that I think people underestimate on herbicide efficacy is a good competitive crop.
That's right. It's like another mode of action. There you
absolutely.
Go. Yep. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jason, thank you so much for joining me here on the Farmer Rapid Fire.
All right. Thanks, Lyndsey. Appreciate it.